What is going on? Excited to see all these faces popping in here. Let's go. All right. Looks like my chat's a little bit delayed. So what is going on, everybody? I'm stoked to see so many people already coming in here. Let's play a game. Let's play the game to start this off while we get everybody in, since I'm a few minutes early, which is rare, to be fair, if you know me. I'm actually in Portugal today. So any of you Europeans, what's up? Actually, for you Europeans, tell me if any of y'all are here. But I met a lovely Frenchman in Biarritz, France, and he told me that he bought his business, which I had never met a Frenchman before and knew if he bought his business or not. He bought a business I don't love. He bought a restaurant, although this one, his numbers seem to show that he was killing it. Not my favorite business, but he actually bought it from the owner using seller financing in France and basically left the restaurant exactly the same, just changed the colors of the wall. It's a really cool little funky breakfast spot there. And him and his wife moved from Paris, where they used to run a club instead. So anyway, I thought that was really cool. I'm so excited to have so many faces in here today. This is going to be awesome. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of rules of the road for starting, since we have everybody piling in. We are going to give you about 60 minutes of a song and dance, right? So let's call it 60 minutes of real in-depth presentation on how to buy a business in a recession to cash flow from my perspective. We're going to give you the good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to break down a bunch of things for you today. Then we're going to give you guys an option to go deeper if you want to. And then we're going to go through a ton of Q&A. And then if you guys have more questions, I'm going to stay for something like an hour and 15, an hour and 20 minutes, something like that with all y'all, which is late here. So we'll see how that goes. And then afterwards, we're actually going to have an after party where basically members of my team and other business buyers will be in a room for people to answer more questions if you want to. So I'm stoked you guys are here. This is live. There's always that one fucking guy in the chat. It's always a guy. What is it with you guys? Women, we have our thing too. There's always some guy that's like, is this live? Is this live? Is this live? It's live. We do this live for a reason, because everything changes so quickly in the world. I don't ever leave these things. I don't like to leave these things out there in the world because they got to be updated. So let's rock and roll, because we are now 2 minutes into this. And maybe the only other thing I'd love you to do is, as you're listening to this, I'm going to be asking you to throw some stuff in the chat. If you can just give me like quick ones and twos in the chat, sort of as we go forward, that will help me tailor this presentation specifically to all right about 3,000 of you right now. And that will be really cool and hopefully more valuable for you guys. So let's do this, because we don't have any time to fucking waste, do we? Also, by the way, sorry, I was born a sailor. You know, I don't know any other way than that. Ooh, Jasmine, there's some weird thing. Oh, there we go. Couldn't find my face there for a second. So there's going to be some 4-letter words. Hope you guys are ready for that. All right. 10 steps to buying a business that cash flows. 10 steps, because I actually have 10 steps to the business buying process that you all are going to see, which I think will be really, really useful for you today. Now, the reason that we buy businesses, I want to make this really, really clear up front, is, in the words of the indomitable Jay-Z, I got 99 problems and about 83 of them would be solved by money. So the idea is, we believe in the mission of small businesses, but we buy profitable businesses. And I want to stick that in the back of your head, because before the end of this, I wrote this manifesto last night at like 2 a.m, talking about all the ways that deals could go sideways. There's about 20 things I have seen happen where people have deals go sideways. And one of the most frequent ones is they do something really stupid called buying a business that is not profitable. It's like the girl that has the boyfriend who's a fucking mess, and despite that, she continues to think, I'm going to fix him. And that's how people are with business buying too. And we're not going to do any of that. So if you remember one thing, then just remember that we don't buy unprofitable businesses here, especially not for our first deal. Okay, now let's get into this. Before we go too deep, I want to be fair about a few things. I have made millions of dollars in deals. Many of the people in our group have made tens of millions of dollars in deals. A couple of them have made hundreds of millions of dollars in deals. But this is not easy. This is hard work. I say it's simple because it's not rocket science. Like we have a bunch of serious engineers and, geneticists and shit in this group. And this isn't rocket science, but it does take hard work. And in this world of people who just want a passive income check and not an empire, I want to be clear with you guys. It is hard work. And that if you do this stuff wrong, you can lose money. It always killed me. I had this one employee that used to day trade and signed up for some guy's day trading course or whatever. And I just about died because I sit on the board of a hedge fund. And I just said, there's no way that you are going to beat the market. And all you're going to do is you're going to lose money because your probability is so high to lose money day trading. And if you do any type of investing wrong, you can lose money. And I want you to also burn that in the back of your brain, because you're going to hear about a lot of incredible people who have made tons of money by buying businesses. That's my goal. But I want you guys to understand how important it is that you do it right. We want to protect your first deal so that you can become a deal maker. Lots of times when people do things wrong is when they do a bad first deal. They think that deal making or business buying is bad, when in reality, they just pulled the trigger too soon. And that is part of the reason why we started this group, not just to teach people to buy businesses, but to teach people to buy businesses right. So we do not cut corners here. But before we get into the specifics on what even a corner is and how to buy small businesses, I want you to take a step back, because it's bigger than you and it's bigger than me. I truly believe, if you've never heard me talk about this anywhere, it's on a lot of our manifesto pages, but I believe we are at war as a society. And I don't think that I am dramatizing that. I think we used to be a nation of owners. We actually came over as a nation of humans who wanted ownership and skin in the game. And somehow along the way, we became a nation of serfs and owned, where 1 in 4 houses last year was bought by a major institution in the US, not by our neighbors, where a majority of small businesses are increasingly being held by the few. This is what we're pushing back on. So what you're doing today is really important for your personal freedom, for you making generational wealth. But the reason that I'm willing to get on my little soapbox over here and yell at everybody on the internet is because if we don't, then we lose those little coffee shops and we get a ton of Starbucks. And I don't know about you, but I don't fucking want any more of those. I really don't understand. I'm in Portugal right now and watching a bunch of Americans go to Starbucks here. It kind of blows my mind. So I think it's really important that you're here today. I think that the hard work is worth it. I think that you are capable of it. If you consistently do good, you become great. And so what you're going to find as we talk about this is there's going to be little voices in the back of your mind that say, like, I can't. Maybe there's real voices around you that say you can't. And one of my favorite quotes, as Casey says, a non-Chinese proverb, is people who say it can't be done should not interrupt those who are doing it. We have seen hundreds of people do this in our groups and thousands of people across social media. It is possible to get skin in the game and ownership in a business. And you are going to be the answer to that. At which point you might go, I don't know, fucking Cody, like, why do you know that? How could you tell me such a thing? I'm very bad at many things, but I'm pretty good at a few things, which are I've done 100+ deals in mergers and acquisitions. I've done deals as small as $8,000. I've done deals as big as $4 or $5 billion. I've done venture capital deals. I've done growth equity deals. I've done private equity deals. I've done buyouts. I've done turnarounds. I've done mergers. I've done activist takeovers of public companies. So if I'm maybe good at anything, it's that I've done a series of deals and I've run a slew of companies. Right now, more than 20 of them in our portfolio across tons of different services. And maybe that like tickles your little fancy like it did mine, and you want to build a huge holdco, or maybe you just want to own a piece of your community, or you want to pass down a business instead of throw away a W-2 the second you start working. Maybe that's you. Now, the stuff that I don't know about and I'm not great at, I'll be honest with you too. And hopefully I can help you guys steal some of the, God, now I'm going to age myself. We've been doing deals since 2007. So, 15, 16 years of Vanguard, Goldman Sachs, State Street, First Trust, EEC, some of the biggest names out there in both private equity, Wall Street, asset management. That way you don't have to wear any suits. I wear them for you. You can stick to the boots. Now, I don't want you to do something. I don't want you to confuse opportunity with ease. But what I will tell you is there is a huge opportunity happening right now in the world around us. What I am calling the three waves. And I think it is one of the greatest transfers of wealth in our generation. Why? Because we're seeing 10,000 baby boomers retire each day. We're seeing a large portion of them are self-employed. They control a large percentage of the small business landscape in the US and around the world, a bigger percentage around the world, actually. And so that means that we have hundreds of thousands and millions of small businesses that will be changing hands over the course of the next, let's call it, it really has been happening the last 10 years, and it's going to accelerate the next 20 years. So the time to learn about it is right now. Now, if you follow me on social, you'll know there are lots of things I hate as investment opportunities, and I'm kind of agnostic. I don't really care what you invest in. I just care that you have some sort of incentive alignment, aka what I call skin in the game, and that's what we're going to get you today. Now, what I want you to know for sure is that being in charge is really scary. It's hard. Most people will never understand it. There will be nights when you become an owner where you sit there and think, am I strong enough to do this? And you can give me a yeah if you guys agree in the chat. If you are a small business owner, it is fucking hard. It's hard. But I want you to know this up front, because the truth of the matter is that if you don't know this up front, then it won't matter if I tell you the 10 steps. It won't matter if I give you every single tactic, because you're going to give up at some point, or you're going to skip a step, or you're going to cut a corner because you don't really realize why you're doing this. And any business owner that's here understands that this is true. The posers, the pretenders, the passive incomers, they don't actually understand. And so why do people keep salary jobs? Because one, it's a bribe for your dreams, but two, because it is fucking hard. And we're going to teach the ways to make this a little bit harder so that people don't have to go and burn hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars doing some startup that never makes you any money. That's the goal today. And I love what you guys are saying on the right-hand side, because it is tough, it is hard, but you can do it. Now, we're going to get into the how, but drop for me here your sort of why. So the reason that I started buying businesses and what kept me up when it took, it's going to take you guys, when you start learning about buying businesses, if you think you're going to get off of this 60-minute call and you're going to be able to buy a business, you're out of your fucking mind. You're not going to be able to. You will know more than probably 90% of the population about buying a business after this. You will have something like 25 new terms for you to utilize. You will have 6 different deal structures that we're going to go through that you probably haven't learned before. You're going to see broken down deal calculators. You're going to see specific models. But if you don't understand why you're doing this, you are not going to go the distance. And so it's not for me. I don't really care. It's only for you. What do you want? Why? And for me, it was like, I don't want to wear suits anymore. I want to be in Portugal if I want to be in Portugal for a month. I want to flitz around France if I want to, and I want to leave a legacy to my children. I don't want my legacy to say financial analyst like it used to. I also don't want to see this Starbucks. I want to see this small business, which is why I've invested in 3 local restaurants, not so much to make money in Austin. Okay, now keep this for you. Whatever your why is, keep this, because once you learn the how and you start moving on this, I want you to never forget the why. It is critical and will be the only thing that keeps you going. Okay, let's get into some specifics. Laundromats. First of all, you guys have probably heard me talk about laundromats first a lot, because that was my very first investment, my very first boring business investment, where I bought a laundromat for $100,000 that did $67,000 in profit. And then I did another investment recently. This company's called The Fold. This is Mark, the founder, that basically 5x'd my investment in 2 years. But one of the other reasons that I did it is because he had this really incredible service where all these single moms basically were able to use his service and still go to work, because when you have a little kid, you know that they just make a mess of everything and they could take care of it. And so I don't talk about laundromats because I think you guys should go out and buy them. Did you hear that? Everybody on here? These are what I call the gateway drug to businesses. It's an example because it's easy to understand. Okay, let's get started. This is the goal by the end of the day. So, our goal, and you'll see, if you see a path to get this by the end, you can tell me yes or no at the end, is that If you are one of these humans, this should work for you. If you're willing to put in the work, if you've been laid off from tech, especially if you own a business, if you've managed teams, you can do it in, we haven't found a country yet that you can't do it in. Maybe you guys could tell me there's somewhere, but I can't imagine why not. If you are employed full-time and if you have some cash on hand. If you don't have any cash on hand, just sit and listen and learn, and we'll talk about some ways you can do deals without cash, okay? Now, this is the part where I show you a bunch of humans who tell you that it is possible for you to do it. A lot of times when I give these song and dances, people are like, must be nice for you, Cody, 15 years in finance, fucking PhD, you went to Georgetown, did daddy give you the money? And the truth of the matter is, my dad didn't go to college. He became a small business owner, but through all of his own blood, sweat, and tears. And so this is a group of other humans that you can basically look back at and say, if these guys can do it, I could probably do it. And if these guys can do it, I can probably do it. And in fact, if all of these people can do it in totally different sectors, then I can probably do it. And what I think is possible in the accelerated is that within 90 days, you could have your first deal closed. But I would say for sure, if you follow our process in a year, you can have your first deal closed. You can use other people's money if you end up wanting to, or your own money to do the deal. You can generate, usually you should be able to replace your salary to do your deal. You've bought back your time, and then we can teach you about putting an operator in your business to run it. This is really cool. This is Miguel. He actually just closed this business. And this isn't, it's a little, that's fast. March, April, May, June, 4 months to close a deal this big with 80% seller financing. I'm not saying you guys are going to all be able to do that. I am saying that this is possible. And if you give us a year of you working on something, you're going to be surprised with what you're able to accomplish. Okay. Oh, and if you have questions throughout this, I'm like monitoring the chat, but just know that I am going through the 10 steps to buy a business. So if you're like, how do I find a business? How do you value a business? How do I get money for a business? Guess what? You guys think I'm going to cover that? I'm probably going to cover that. You can put any questions that you're like, no way, she has to, she's not going to cover this. You can put that in Q&A only, and I will make sure we get to your questions. Now, super, super, super important. Whether you end up doing something with us, becoming part of one of our groups or not, the only thing I want you to promise me is that 1, you'll learn deal making no matter what. It will be a skill you'll never regret. And 2, you don't fuck up your first deal, okay? This is not NFT speculating. It's not like, the people that go out there and say, buy the purple orangutan or whatever the fuck that was, and it's definitely gonna go up. And we don't have hype people. These deals can go bad, and we have to make sure that we teach you how to become a person that can do deals. It will last a lifetime. All right, so here's a kind of a cool example. I was actually just talking to Mark this morning. So Mark came into our group in September 22nd, and he did an interesting deal structure I'm going to give you guys right now. If you do nothing else, but you listen to this and you take away this deal structure made Mark from September 22nd to, let's see, so that would have been November, December, about $147,000 a year in profit. I just texted Mark this morning because he's going to be in one of our groups as a facilitator, kind of helping people do this, what is called a revenue or profit share split agreement. And he said to me, he's funny. If you met him, you'd really like him. He's a jujitsu guy. And so he basically said, I make so much money now, Cody, and I'm so expensive that I don't know if I have time to add anything else to my schedule that doesn't net me 6 figures. And I was like, shut up, Mark. You're going to help some people because we helped you in the beginning. And so now Mark does he does 8 figures, 3, 6, 7, 8. 7 figures, highest 7 figures in revenue from doing rev share agreements. This is what this means. So this is a term alert. A rev share split. All right. This is where you use your current skill to get a percentage of a business with $0 of your own money, but what's called a success basis fee. So an example, this is actually what Mark did. Mark said, hey, I know how to grow the revenue of a business with paid marketing. If I grow the revenue of a roofing business that used to be his client, if I grow it and put a little bit of my own skin in the game, so you don't have to pay for it all, I'll put a little bit of my skin in the game. Can I take a percentage of the upside in equity for lowering my upfront fee? And for that, Mark took, I can't remember, but let's say it was about 23, 25% of a business. He grew that business's revenue by 30, 35%. He took 25% of the upside, and then he took 25% of the business's revenue that he drove in equity. He did all of this, and he did it without putting a dollar to the table. This is a really cool way to grow and invest. This is a really cool way to get assets in a business without cash. And one of the things we talk about in our groups, Marcus is just one example, so I'm giving you a case study here, but we talk about there's sort of 3 different ways you can do that. So we're not going to get into all of those today, but that's one example. So you could leave today and go, I'm signing off this webinar, and I have the path with my skill set to drive at least $147,000 in revenue, if not $1 million in revenue. So you listening for whatever 15 minutes could drive you more than whatever Airbnb arbitrage nonsense people are talking about online right now. Now, in these 60 minutes, my goal is that no matter what, you're going to walk away with actionable steps to become a deal maker. You're going to know how to negotiate better. It's really important. But I'd really like, by the end of this masterclass, for you at least to see a map. You know, it's like when you look at your phone and you're going to go from, I don't know, California to Oregon. And if you look at your phone once, you're not going to be able to remember every single step to get there. You're not going to know all the flips and turns. You're going to need to like stay on the map for a while. But when you see that on your phone, you're going to be like, oh, it is actually possible to get from A to B. And it's totally reasonable. That is the point of this, that you can learn how to find off-market deals in this call. You can see a pathway to using other people's money. You can see how you can add 6 figures in income, because the truth of the matter is I tell you guys why it's really important. And then I tell you guys a framework for how to get there. And it's just a little bit like the Matrix. Once you start seeing it, you're going to see it everywhere. And you're not going to be able to stop seeing deals. It becomes a little bit of a sickness. One other thing that I think is cool is every time we do one of these, we give away $1,000. All I ask for whoever stays on till the end and wins $1,000, you tell us what you spend it on. I really hope you don't spend it on flashy shoes or what the kids are into these days. I hope you spend it on your investment in you becoming a deal maker or buying your first business. Now, 100% truth. So we've had 600 people-ish come into our business buying mastermind group. We've had more than 100, 200 deals done. We don't get all the tracking on them because not everybody shows us to them. We've had 3,000 students more probably go through our actual course. And what I've seen time and time again is the biggest reason people don't buy a business is that's a you thing. And so I really want you to get clear and aligned with, by the end of this, do I want to take this path? Because if you do, in a year, you will be really surprised where you are. I mean, it's pretty incredible for 1 to 2 out of 6 people in the group to have bought a business within 2 years of us creating this program online. I would have never imagined that. The average search funder, who's like a person that gets funded by these big, wealthy people and institutions, most search funders don't find a business within 10 years. They give up by the end. They just don't buy a business. You are not going to be that. All right. Last thing I want you to do, and I'm going to pay attention for this part as I keep going, is write down the stuff that you're like, Cody, I'm scared of this. I don't understand this. This is too good to be true. This sounds awful. I don't want this to happen, because then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure in the Q&A we have all of the, I'm going to have all of the details for you on how to get past these issues. So tell me what you're scared of specifically, and let's move through that. Okay. Now, these are all really good. Underwriting business deals, Daniela, Afike, cool name, losing money, not having enough money, sellers lying. The whole process is scary, Beatrice says. Time and money, letting myself down. Awesome. I won't do it right. I'll mess it up. Being scammed. Okay. By the end, let's see how you feel. And see if we have moved you forward to the next step of feeling like we might get over some of these fears. And we're going to keep watching these as these go forward. All right. The myth number 1 that a lot of people are already saying here is that it's safer to hold my money during a downturn. I'm too scared about losing money. What if I fuck this up? And there's 2 things I want you to think about here. 1, if you had come to me, well, there's a reason I didn't talk about this 5 years ago. And that reason was I really thought the market was moving to all-time highs. I was concerned about what was happening with the market. Obviously, COVID happened. I didn't predict that, but I was concerned people would be buying at highs. Half of the way you make money on business buying is like real estate. It's on the deal. Do you get a good deal? Do you understand how to do a good deal? Can we teach you that? And then can you be there at the times in the world where everyone else is being irrational and you can be rational? Can you buy when there's blood in the streets? That time is coming right now. Now, here's a second case study I'm going to give you guys. If you are an owner in a business, we have a ton of stuff where we go over this in more detail, but this is a way to grow your profit in a recession or really in any business environment without a cent. And this is a case study for another person in our group. Her name's Brittany. She actually owned a workout class studio. And basically during 2020, she was in one of our group calls and basically said, you guys will be so proud. I'm doing an acquisition. I said, awesome. What is it? She's like, I'm buying bikes and equipment and I'm, buying these from company or from other gyms that are going under. She's doing what's called an asset acquisition. And I was like, that's cool. But what about everything else? And she's like, what do you mean everything else? They're going out of business. This is it. It's an all you can eat, garage buffet of cheap things, pennies on the dollar. I'm crushing it. This would have cost me X. I'm so smart. And I said, you are so smart. And yet, what about the clients of those people at the gym? What about the trainers of those people? What if you did a deal where you said, hey, closing business owner, for every small business, for every client that you transfer to my business, or I will pay you a percentage of the revenue we get from them over the next year or 2 years or 6 months. And she was like, we need to do that immediately. So she doubled her profit without spending $1 upfront by doing an asset acquisition plus a client acquisition. Now, this asset sale, if you own a business, I want you to think about this right now. I want you to think about getting to know your competitors instead of thinking you're going to compete with them. How could you actually be their savior in a downturn? This is really important. For those of you who don't own a business already, how could you be the person that connects the two? We have another member of our UA Mastermind group who basically was that. He was looking and talking to other members in the mastermind group, found one business that was a construction business, and said, what if I go out and find some of these other businesses that are closing? I funnel them over to you. Can I get a percentage of your deal? And the guy said, yeah, you certainly can. And so he got into a business without any assets. That's why the rooms that you are in are so important. All right. So lesson number one is that overall, actually downturns and recessions and this fear we have of losing money might not be so rational. We're going to see in a downturn, the real estate market come down. We're already seeing it. I mean, Airbnb is across the market down 50%. Real estate in general down somewhere, depends on the market, 4 to 10%. Highly cyclical and not much you can do. If your house starts dropping in value, you can't do much else. But businesses can grow in almost any environment. And also you can do things called value add to actually grow your business while everybody else is catapulting downward. So if anyone in here is in real estate, buying business is a great thing to add as a satellite to your main business of real estate. If you're a realtor, maybe you buy a property management company. If you're a property management company, maybe you buy a brokerage. If you're a brokerage, maybe you buy a mortgage broker. These satellites to your main business is what I have done overall. And that means that every single business I acquire, I can pay more than other people. Super, super cool. All right. Myth number 2, I need to have a good chunk of cash on hand to buy businesses. I see a bunch of people in here saying that. What if I don't have cash, Cody? Let's talk about another case study. This is Renan. Renan is also in our group. Renan's incredible. Renan worked in the medical sales industry and had no experience buying businesses, had no experience running a business before, and really minor managerial experience. And Renan ended up doing an $8 million revenue business with $2 million in EBITDA, roughly explained as prices, for $8 million as a purchase price. So 4 times 2 is 8. That's how we get the purchase price, and 100% seller financing, which we're going to explain to you guys, which means that Renan took $0 out of pocket for this deal. He partnered with the current owners and he has very little downside to make sure that right now he doesn't have a crazy personal guarantee where anything could go sideways. This is a really cool deal. And now I don't want to say that all of you guys are going to be able to do an $8 million deal, nor would I want you to. For your first deal, we want your first deal doing something that feels like a slight bit of a stretch, but is never going to put you out of business, that is never going to ruin a life. And so we pay a ton of attention to one of the steps we call deal clarity that we're going to get to next. Because if somebody tells you this is a great business to buy, run the other direction. There's no such thing as a great business to buy. There is only a good business to buy for you at this price and terms. We will get into those specifically. Now, seller financing, I'm going to break down an entire example of this for you. All it is, though, is that you use the profits of a business to buy the business. There's 1,000 ways to structure. This is where the fun part comes in. So in the beginning, you kind of go, and maybe tell me if any of you guys feel like this, but in the beginning, you kind of go, oh my gosh, this is so much. Like, what? And then as you start to dive in, you start to realize, oh, wow, this is fun. It's like a game. There's all these different ways that you can structure deals and different ways you can get people to pay for it. And that's what happens once you get the repetitions of being a deal maker. It's like in the beginning, you play a guitar, you do 2 strings, it's fucking awful. And then after doing a couple of lessons, you realize there's 1,000 ways to play the game. Okay, so lesson 2. It's easier to get other people's money in buying business than it is in real estate, which is wild. So a couple things that I want to talk about. There's sort of 5 ways we do deals. The SBA does loans. That's located in the US, where basically they'll do up to 90% of the purchase price of a small business. I actually prefer people for their first deals not to do SBA loans. We can talk about that later, but debt can be very powerful. I prefer you do the second type, which is seller financing, where the seller gives you the money to buy the business. You can use assets of the business to get more money. You can also do debt pay down more quickly than you can in real estate. So 3 to 7 years, 3 to 15 years, instead of 15 to 30 years. And we have all these ways in which we can structure deals creatively and de-risk them for you. Now, the part that I think is most obvious, and yet it's all over Twitter and it's all everybody talks about, is that people think it is cheaper, easier, and more effective to start a business than buy a business. And I'm here to tell you that is categorically not true. Like, nobody tells you when you're doing a startup, like, ooh, be careful. Are you smart enough for that? Are you going to run out for money? They're like, no, slay girl. Yeah, create another notebook company. Throw it up on Etsy. I'm sure you're going to make millions. Ridiculous. That's not what we're trying to do. We are trying to find businesses that have existed for a really long time, that will continue to exist in the future, that have a higher likelihood of continuation. That is why I like to buy businesses instead of start them. Because look at this, 90% of startups fail. On average, you don't make money in a startup for 3 to 4 years. I hate that. I want to start making money on day 1 of closing a deal. And how about this? Only 40% of startups ever even actually turn a profit. Now, if you have some crazy idea inside of you and you cannot sleep for the one of building it, build it. I'm all for it. I have companies I've built myself, but I'm a wuss. And I was in corporate America for like fucking forever, it felt like, but let's say 10 years, 12 years. I was working with partners in a private equity firm. I was like in the corporate sphere for so long because I was so scared of leaving. And I did deals while I was in my job so that I could collect the salary. I would de-risk myself and I would put it into small businesses. And I did that again and again and again because I was too scared to go take a huge leap. And I think that is perfectly okay for all of you guys to do too. Side hustles, great way to burn cash. Doing deals while you have an income stream, much higher likelihood of success. Because, I've never been into joggers that look like this. Like, I want to live a life where I don't have to sleep on a floor. I'm not concerned about running out of money. I want to do deals where I am actually super risk averse. And that's how we tend to think about it on unconventional acquisitions. How do we protect the house so that first rule, like Warren Buffett says, first rule of investing is don't lose money. Second rule of investing is don't forget rule number 1. Third rule is those are the only rules in investing. That is what we are trying to do. We want to make sure we protect the house. And there are so many businesses at every single level of the game. You could buy a business for $5,000. You could buy a business that does a couple $100,000 for $0 and not have a personal guarantee, get the seller to finance it. And if anything goes wrong, give the business back to the seller. We just have to teach you guys, and then you have to take action. Okay. The last thing that I'll say is I do think the world is getting rougher. We're already seeing it. I've been preaching to the choir, and you guys probably have heard me if you follow my stuff about Airbnb for a while. And I own quite a few Airbnbs. Plus I own a property management company, or part of one. And so it's not in my best interest to say Airbnbs are going sideways. It's just not that hard to miss. It's like when people were saying NFTs are going to go up forever. It's like, really? When people said that tech was going to go up forever, it's like, really? I've seen this game before. The world is going to get rougher. And so, we've already seen layoffs happen across the board. Maybe you guys can drop in here if you feel like sharing. Usually we've had some of our most successful business buyers have been former employees at tech companies or big companies that got laid off. They've been current business owners, and they've been highly paid people in corporate land. These people are moving to business acquisition because they've seen what happens if you put all of your eggs in one big corporate basket, because sadly they can't care about you. And they do something. Like I said, I've personally had probably 40 to 50 businesses. I've never once, knock on wood, laid off anybody because I am so strict and stringent on how I grow a business financially. And most businesses are not like that. Tech company, something happens, lay off a bunch of people. We are going to push back on that. You are going to push back on that. And then we look at real estate. We got the same thing going on here. So even though we have all these challenges, we've got some great opportunities. This is maybe worth a screenshot. So now we get into the really particulars of the hows here. If you take a screenshot of this, this is what you have to learn to do a deal. You have to learn how to go from, we're already at step one, foundation. Hey, there's a huge opportunity in business buying. Hey, just because there's an opportunity doesn't mean it's easy. You've got to learn a lot, but it's going to be the best MBA you've ever had in your life. Second, deal clarity, all the way down to closing your first 90 days. We're going to go through every single one of these at a really high level so that you can see that Google Maps. You're not going to know all the terms. You're not going to have every single stat, but you're going to be like, you know what? If they gave me this much value in 60 minutes, and if they showed me things that nobody in finance or in my fancy MBA, like I went to Georgetown, they didn't tell me this shit. I was at Goldman Sachs, they didn't teach me this, and I was doing huge mergers and buyouts. You're going to, by the end of this, say like, okay, I can see the next step and it's worth diving in and learning. That's the goal. And I think that's where you're going to go. Now, I talked about this briefly, but I want to hit on it one more time. Do not make this just about you. Look at this intersection. Let's bring back some of the small businesses around the world instead of some of the huge businesses. Let's be the salvation for these baby boomers retiring who have nobody that wants to take over their business. What's going to happen to these $5 trillion in retirement age boomers' assets when they can't sell them? Because it's not stocks where their money is, it's in their small businesses. How about the fact that only 1 in 11 will sell within 12 months of being listed? How crazy is that? Think about that for a second. 11 houses on a block, only 1 gets sold in a year. That's almost unheard of unless you were in Detroit in 2000. That means that most businesses all around you are motivated sellers. They just don't know it yet. And we've got to teach you how to move them towards the right price and terms for you to take over their business. And the last example I'll give you is one of the first reasons I really got comfortable talking about this is I had an uncle, his name was Uncle Eb, and he ran a company called Eb Homes Plumbing in Phoenix, Arizona. You can go, I think you can still Google it. And Eb got a call that he had cancer. And he was late 60s, early 70s. And he was running a business that did $5 or $6 million a year revenue, $2 to $3 million profit. He had grown that business with his own bootstraps. He came from a sharecropping family. He had more brothers and sisters die than survive. He grew up in Arkansas before he moved to Arizona. And the man didn't realize that when he got sick and wanted to stop working, he could sell his business. So he took a business that was worth, if he was doing $2 to $3 million in profit, somewhere between $4 and $9 or $10 million in value, and he shut it down. Shut down his business. It actually costs business owners money to shut down a business. You could be helping somebody push forward the future of their business and save them money doing it just by taking over the business for $0. So that's why this is so important. Because if you look at this graph, you're going to see what I see, which is, man, these guys are getting close to not being able to run these things anymore. And you are going to be one of the ones that actually takes over. One thing I think that's really, really important here to know is that we're not taking advantage of business sellers. This group, there's nobody in there, if you come in any of our groups, there's nobody in there that's talking about like, I got this guy. It's all, I de-risked the deal so that he won and I won. That's what we're attempting to do. Because look at what's happening on the left. COVID accelerated baby boomers leaving. And then on the right, this is really important. Private equity companies, the companies that typically are the ones that are going to buy up all these guys, look at how low their cash balances are. Incredibly low. So we are going to step in right there. Now, the second step after we've realized this foundation, and you've realized that there are buyers or sellers all around, we get into what is the right business for you. What business should I buy, Cody? This is called deal clarity. There's two specific frameworks I want you to use. One's called the BRRT method, which is buy businesses that cash flow. We do not buy unprofitable businesses in recession-resistant sectors. So we're not buying luxury shoe businesses. We're buying plumbing business. We're buying HVAC businesses. We're buying roofing businesses. We're buying construction businesses. We have inside of the course and mastermind, I think 150 of my favorite businesses. We also have a newsletter on Contrarian. Thank you for free about that. We have an ability to raise the prices of the business. The average small business is underpriced in their prices by 3x. And then we add tech to their offerings. Nothing crazy. We're not even talking about ChatGPT. We're talking about fax machines coming online. So first, every deal you look at, you're going to say, is this a BRRT business? The second thing we look for in a business is typically I like the 2 to 3 million in revenue and below. I like blue collar service businesses, and I want at least 100K in profit, maybe a little bit more. And the reason is because this is the least competitive area from private equity. Now, we have people that have bought, $8 million business, $10, $20 million businesses, but underneath this amount, you have more wiggle room. So those are two specifics. One thing that I think is interesting here is just one easy way to learn is this guy's name is Brett. Brett's awesome. If you look down at the farther part of this, you can see okay, he bought a solar and battery storage installer, 20 employees, 4.75 million, got it with an SBA loan, plus some seller notes and a small equity injection. You can see how long it took him, and you can see that he's still in his W-2 role, but he's phasing out. So this is a perfect example of, okay, now I see Brett did this transaction. I see how he structured it, see what's going to happen next. Every single Monday, we do calls analyzing all of these. The second framework that we use is SOWS. SOWS is stale, old, weak, simple. Stale means there hasn't been a lot of innovation in the business. You're kind of keeping your eyes on that. If two young guys run the business, we're not that interested in it. Old means the business has been around. I do not buy businesses that do not have at least 5 years of financials. 5 years of financials, guys, remember that. Weak businesses, not that much competition. Simple businesses. These are businesses that are easy to understand. I don't want anything anywhere that says it's patent pending, biotechnology. Nope. I'm not going to play the I'm super smart game. I'm going to play a simple business. So now you have two frameworks for you to use. There's some examples here of some businesses that fall into this. But what you're going to learn if you hang around with us more is that basically we want to teach you how to buy the best business for you. I call this your unfair advantage or your deal box. And so this is the unfair advantage or deal box becomes really, really important for you to move to the next stage. Let's show you an example of a business in action. This business was stale, so it had flat 3-year revenue. Old, 12 years old. Weak, no marketing. The operator only worked 3 hours a week. Simple, outsourced chat group. So basically just a plug-in with some outsourced VAs that help small businesses close. The terms were it was 150K a year EBITDA. We bought for 75K. Our hope is that this year we can get it to 300K EBITDA with an operator. I'd love to get it to 1 million next year. But even as is, this business is making money now with an operator in it, and we're not paying any attention to it. This business is also remote. I don't live in the same state. In fact, the operator doesn't live in the same country. These are available all around. Okay. The next thing we have is I have something called the 5-digit rule. So I always want to make sure that a business has at least 5 digits a month in profit to me, because then I can pay an operator to do it, or I can at least get my revenue. We're going to show you a couple of different models so you can figure out where you stand. Like, should you have a 6-digit a month rule? Should it be 20,000? Could you do a business that only has 3,000 because you're going to actually operate it? This is why you can't learn all of this in 60 minutes. But again, you're kind of seeing the road. You're starting to see where the phone is leading. Okay. Now, the next question people start to ask is, How do I find a deal? This is called origination. So that's another fancy term in private equity. Origination basically means, how do I find a deal to buy? You can screenshot this, but here's a bunch of places where they sell businesses online. You can certainly do this. Deuce, for instance, sells only newsletters. LoopNet sells a lot of real estate heavy businesses like mobile home parks, which I have a few, I have some exposure to a few mobile home parks. I also like this business, which we actually bought part of it. It's called bizscout.io. I don't actually know. Oh, I think we have a special discount for you guys today if you stay on until the end or if you join our groups with BizScout. This is basically an off-market deal finder that scrapes a bunch of websites to find your target type of business and then allows you to email them or phone call the operators to see if they'd be interested in buying. It's really cool. Other ways you can buy businesses. You can take a small screenshot of this, but we teach 12 different ways, and we kind of walk you through how we would do it if you were you inside of these small businesses. All right, so now you know the opportunity. You've started to see what a good business might look like. You've understood some ways to find businesses online. I think that's like 13 or so ways right there. And the next is, why would an owner sell to you? This part's really important, and it's a little hefty inside of the course and the mastermind. But we want to basically think about when we go to buy a business, like selling ourselves in a job interview. You're basically trying to develop a personal relationship because you're asking them to hand over their baby to you. You want to show a history of being somebody responsible. You want to show that you actually understand the biz buying game. And there's a lot of tricks to this trade because there's a bunch of people who fuck around. We all know these people. They like dabble in 37 things. They never take any one thing serious. That's not going to be you. When you, or if you are my student or you are our student, we teach you a very particular way to reach out to sellers because it's really important that you come off as someone who can be trusted. So the next section we go to is negotiation, which basically means negotiation is not only, how do I talk somebody into selling to me, but how do I start to get the terms that I want? A couple things that are really standard. These are in the course. You can also find these online. And if you're going to go with an attorney, they usually charge you something like $500 till let's call it $5,000 to put together a letter of intent, a term sheet, an operating agreement, a partner agreement, or an employment agreement, depending on if you're having an operator on them. They're pretty standardized, but you need these two things to negotiate with. And then if I was to give you a cheat button, we have a bunch of stuff in the course, for instance, but inside of there, we talk about a bunch of different strategies. And then I would do one thing if you want to become a real badass. I would take these 6 books and I would just listen to them on audiobook. And I like audiobook actually instead of reading because you're going to listen to even the way that they speak. And you're going to listen to, you don't have to like Trump. I'm not saying that I like Trump one way or the other. I'm not saying I like Sam Zell. I'm not saying I like Chris Voss. But they all have such interesting ways of negotiating that if you can learn from some of the people who have excelled at this, you're going to be so far ahead of the game. Lots of people talk about sales. I don't believe you sell anything to anybody. I believe you find people who are already predisposed to want what you're quote unquote selling. And you're so good at understanding the things that they desire that you can get them to your goal faster. That is what we teach. Now, we get to valuation and due diligence, or DD. This is how do I figure out what a business should cost? Couple things. I like to keep it stupid simple. So if it's up to me and I'm buying a business, and there are, remember, more than 11 million small businesses for sale right now, only 1 in 11 of them across the country will sell within a year. So I'm going to pay a low multiple. I'm going to pay 2 to 3x the profits of the business. So if a business makes 100K, I'm probably going to pay 200 to 300K for that. That business, I might negotiate seller financing. I might do an SBA loan. I might put some cash down. I might raise from investors. There's lots of different ways to do it, but just rule of thumb, 2 to 3x. Now, this is lower. So there's going to be lots of people that are like, no, 4 to 8x is the only way you could buy them. I think you have to just keep looking for the right deals. But let's say somewhere between 2 and 6x is typically what's bought in small business land. Now, this is one of the models that I have. It looks a little overwhelming, I think, when you look at it like this. But the cool part is it's sort of plug and play. And basically, this is called scenarios. What I like to do is I like to make sure that I'm a visual person. So basically, when I look at buying a business, I like to see, hey, if I get a loan at this much interest rate, just like a mortgage, when you go and look at a house on Zillow and you're like, oh my God, I love that house. And then you put in there, okay, what a mortgage cost on this house? Like, I don't know if anybody else does this. And then you kind of triangulate, okay, could I spend that much? What if I put 10% down? What if I put 20% down? That's what these are. And basically you learn to play with a few different scenarios and say, if I bought this business for $0 down, but I paid 20% more, I could pay off the business in 5 years, not 3, but I could de-risk it because I don't have to put any of my own money down. And this is how we play with these scenarios. And this is called modeling. And it actually becomes fun once you don't have to build the actual model, which you don't, because we already built it. Now we get into how do we finance the deals. All right, 3 main ways. Seller financing, this is the way I like to buy businesses. Seller financing, seller financing. 2, SBA loans. The SBA loans I think are incredible as long as we make sure we never let you guys do too big of a deal. And that I like to do SBA loans on like second and third deals where you're kind of a pro. Because what'll happen is you do your first deal well and you'll be like, oh, maybe I went a little small on my first deal. And my next deal, I realized like bigger problems, just pay more. And so my next deal, I might do an SBA loan. But for my first one, I'm going to do seller financing. I'm going to be a little bit less risky. And then asset loans. And basically what you can see here is we have all these calculations where they can see like, well, if I do this kind of loan, what could happen here? And what's really fun is I almost think about it like, it's like Monopoly, right? It's like, if I buy this little piece of real estate, and this many people land on it, what am I going to collect? And this is how I think about getting capital. This is a deal that you saw in the beginning. This is Renan's deal. So you can basically see he closed 100% seller financing. He's closing another $1.5 million business doing about 500K to 750 SDE, means seller's discretionary earnings, which is basically like money Cody puts in her pocket from running the business, right? If I was the operator of the business. And Renan's amazing. But when I first met Renan, I think I saved Renan a lot of money because Renan came to one of my events. He flew out to Austin and he was going to invest in a cannabis company in Puerto Rico. And I have done a lot of cannabis deals in a past life in private equity. And I talked him out of it. I said, that's a terrible deal. Don't do that deal, please. And he was like, well, I think you could invest in it. I'm really excited about whatever. And I said, no, don't do that deal. Thankfully, he didn't do the deal. The cannabis market sort of cratered. And now he has an HVAC business and a plumbing business that is not going to do this with regulation. Turns out, even in a recession, if your toilet's broken, you're going to call the plumber and they're going to fix it. Okay. Next is structuring. So now your next kind of spot on the map that we're going to go to is how do I structure my deal? So maybe if you guys are sitting there, like I like to think about, I do something called a personal P&L review to think about the businesses I might buy. But let's say you're an accountant, or let's say you're a graphic designer. It might be interesting to buy an accounting firm. It might also be interesting to go to another accounting firm, help your current accounting firm buy another firm, and then take a part of that deal. And so this structuring is how we think about creative ways to put deals together. Once you speak the language of structuring, you will be unstoppable. So how about we break down a deal in real life? Would this be interesting for you guys? Should we do that? Okay. Let's do it. So valuation and financing. This is an SBA loan. And on here, you can basically see here's a business with revenues of 1.5 mil, does about $263,000 in profit. The purchase multiple is 1.5x. And the valuation is $394,500. Why 263,000 times 1.5x? I don't really like math, but that's pretty easy. 263 times 1.5, I get to a valuation of $394,000. This is a real business. And so FFE means fixtures, furnishings, and equipment. Basically, this is usually included in the sale price. But we took an SBA loan over 5 years for $355,000, a closing payment to the buyer of $39,000 roughly. And look what this looks like. If you go down here, you see the monthly profit in the business becomes $21,917. You have an SBA loan payout. At the time, this is 5%. This was 5%. This is probably closer to 7 to 8% now. So $6,000 in SBA loan interest payment. And the monthly payout to the buyer, so me in this case, $15,217 or $182,000 annual. So with $39,000, I have bought something that makes $182,000. I can have that money, that $39,000 come from me. I could raise for that money. And I have bought a cash on cash return of 463%, which is pretty incredible. It'd be really hard to do that in real estate. You'd have to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars in order to make $180,000 in real estate rental income. Now, if you were my student, I'd tell you, don't do SBA up front, do seller financing, and let's dig in a little bit more how to do it. Sunny, I'll take 2, please. So how do we then close a deal? So now you've kind of seen live, here's an exact breakdown example. We also have a deal calculator that's really cool. So you can type in a bunch of numbers and see like, hey, if I change my loan terms or if I change my interest rate, what could happen? But what happens with closing? Somebody asked this earlier, which is like, what are the paperwork and documents and everything that you need? All you really need, in my opinion, you need a good accountant and a good attorney. You need a good accountant and a good attorney that knows how to do deals. You pair that with a sector expert, aka if I'm going to buy a roofing company, I'm going to work with a consultant, or I'm going to work with somebody in, let's say, the mastermind who's already done a roofing deal, and I'm going to have them review my deal. And let me tell you why. Because once you've been doing a lot of deals, you know how all you guys know what a raccoon looks like, right? You're like, okay, black and white stripes, kind of furry, really handsy, kind of cute, also feral, raccoon, right? Like, I know what a raccoon looks like. Once you do a bunch of deals, you know what a bad deal looks like. Once you do a bunch of deals inside of one sector, you really know what a bad deal looks like. And so you're going to be able to tell people what the raccoon is very quickly after you've been in your sector for a while. So this is really interesting, because where most people go sideways is they're like, gosh, I don't know if I have enough money. We've already proven you don't need it. I don't know if I'm going to lose money on that. We already proven there's ways to get around that, and you can do that intelligently. Will people really sell to me for this valuation? Yes, there's about 452 examples that you guys have seen thus far. Lastly, what if I don't have sector expertise? Now we're starting to tell you how to do that. As long as for this closing segment, you have the right deal team, the right sector person, and you stick to your timeline, this is how we move forward. Now, the last steps is the first 90 days as a business owner. The business owner's first 90 days is really important, because you usually have something called a transition period when you take over the business. So you're not buying a job theoretically, although some of our people have bought a job too. Like, let's say you're a photographer and you're just starting out and you want to buy somebody's photography business, but their business is just them and their book of clients. You could do that. That's buying a job for sure. But your first 90 days, what you're really doing is you're looking at the business, and I just want you to do one thing when you do your first 90 days. It's like, just like, don't fuck it up. Don't go in there and do what a bunch of people do when they buy a new business, which is like, this plumbing guy is really an idiot. I just bought this company, and watch what I'm going to do in the next 90 days. It's like, no. You're going to kind of sit back. You're going to understand the business. You're going to put in place documentation to kind of see what's happening. You're going to create what you call your first SOPs, or you're going to have your operator do it for you. And you're going to kind of have the owner transition and shepherd you through the acquisition, which is really, really important. This period doesn't have to be you doing a bunch of work. In fact, because we buy the nice houses on nice streets, we don't buy the beat up houses and try to fix and flip them, or what's called a turnaround. The business should be like kind of cruising. It doesn't really need you. And then as you take over, you can do the fun part, which is grow the business. But for the first 3 months, you're watching. For the next 3 months, you're like watching and documenting, maybe adding a few things. For the next 6 months, you're like stabilizing the business. Oh, I don't really like this. This employee is kind of bad. I didn't realize that when I bought the business. And so for that first year, it's kind of like, I'm just like watching what's happening. And then after that first year, you start motoring. And I think, typically people in, let's say, after the first year of taking over a business, that's when you can start putting the processes in place where you're like, I can take a 3 or 4 week vacation now, because I've sort of outlined my business to keep working even without me in it every single day. All right. So at this point, you could almost buy a business, but please don't. There's one thing that I have like 2 conflicting feelings in my heart. That one, I believe almost every human could buy a business and could be an owner. And 2, it's really important that you do it right. And so I don't want you to just go out there willy-nilly doing everything. I want you to become diligent in the way you learn it, because if you learn it once, it will set you up for life. You will be building on a solid foundation. Now, I can't teach you everything in 60 days, but I do hope that we've taught you quite a few things. You've learned a bunch of myths. You've learned a bunch of frameworks. You've learned how to find off-market deals. You've learned how to structure off-market deals. But I think maybe you guys might want to go deeper with us before the Q&A. Do you guys be interested in that? You want to go a little deeper and see how you can learn more about this? You can just write in the chat, yes or no, or I just want to get to my questions, Cody. The other thing that's cool today is, and it'd be fun to have people write in the chat what you have learned thus far, but I counted through this like 15 different terms that I wish I knew 15 years ago that we went over in this deck. And also 6 different ways for you to buy a business, 12 different ways for you to find a business. So after this 60 minutes, like you're motoring, guys. You already know way more than most people know about this, but let's go a little bit deeper really quickly. Okay. First promise overall. I need a promise from you guys. We've had $200 million in profit bought by 700 members in our group today, $200 million. The average UA member of our mastermind closes on a business in 9 to 11 months worth mid 6 figures, which is wild. But I want you to promise me something. If you come with us and you join this journey and you buy a business, we carry on the torch of sellers. We don't take advantage of them. It's really, really important to me to be teaching all of this to all of you. This is an example of a man who had to give his business away for nothing because nobody wanted to buy it. And this is happening all over Japan, and I believe will happen all over the world. And so you guys get to make a ton of money, but you also get to be good humans if you do it right. That's the promise for you guys. If you're dicks, if you're the bad boss, like the reason that you hate your job or the reason that you left your last job, don't buy a company, please. But if you're the type of human who is interested in profits, but also interested in making the world a little bit better, then you're my type of person. And I want to help you. And you are the whole reason we did this. Okay. So that's the price. You've got to take action. You've got to actually work hard and you be a good human. That's pretty much it. That's the only promise I need for you. Okay. Now we have 2 options. One is like, you're listening. You're actively participating in all of this. You're not sure if you want to buy a business yet. I think no matter what, you should learn about how to buy a business and how to do deal making, but there's kind of 2 ways to do it. One is the do-it-yourself version, which is basically go online. We have so much. I think we do 90% of our stuff for free. You can grab everything you want at contrarianthinking.co. We send tons of emails. We create tons of YouTube videos. That's all you. The second option is for the people who are serious. It's not for everybody. But this is the process where we do a little bit more hand-holding with you. And I want to take you kind of through what that looks like. What it looks like is something like this. So we just started this group. It's called the Owner's Circle, and it's inside of our main mastermind. But basically, this upper tier group meets monthly for 1 hour. We have 2 multi-acquirers that run it that have done $10 and $20 million deals. I'm on it too, but I also learned from these guys. We break into pods based on industry and slides, and we have a private Slack group for it. Then in this group is inside of our bigger mastermind group where we have a bunch of business pliers. What I've realized is the problems are all really similar. So people ask all the time, Cody, do you want to do one-on-one coaching? And I'm like, man, it's so much better if we all coach each other than do one-on-one coaching, in my opinion. So I think there are some people that this is for and some people that there are not. And I'm going to answer all your questions. So start putting them in the Q&A after this. This will take me like 3 more minutes. If you are a person who wants to like do the bare minimum, who's super into passive income only, wants to get rich quick in the next 30 or 60 or 90 days, you don't want to invest any money. You just want people to give you money. You want 0 risk whatsoever. You're not willing to spend probably 20 minutes a day, I would say. And then I would say a couple weeks really intensely learning this. Like this isn't for you. You can just wait for the end, get your questions, see if you win the $1,000. Awesome. Keep following along the internet. Not for you. Totally cool. If you are somebody who's like, I want to invest and I have some cash, or I want to invest and I have investors I could work with, or I want to invest and I'm going to take the time, or I'm a W-2 and I want to make the leap, or I'm an entrepreneur. I think you're crazy if you're an entrepreneur and you don't learn acquisitions. This is 100% the way that I've grown my businesses 9 times out of 10. Then I think this could be for you. So those are the 2 things. We like to be really, really honest about this. So we have a mastermind. The mastermind is called Unconventional Acquisitions. These are a bunch of good-looking humans that's in it. Somebody shout out if they see the former bachelor that's in here, which always makes me chuckle because somebody notices on every one of these. How it basically works is we have an online course at your own pace. I really like everybody to use this. Self-guided, goes through hundreds of business deals, and we are updating the whole thing. So if you do this right now, you're going to get an entirely new course. And I don't know, Kimberly's on here, but I think our deadline for it is this fall. So you'll know more than most private equity guys. kind of basically takes you through exactly like this guided practice. This is the most important part to me, are these weekly mastermind calls. So Monday nights, we do deal reviews. We bring in experts, and we have a bunch of humans that we have you work with, attorneys, accountants, tax strategists, structuring guys. And we basically get on a call like this, and you can see over the left-hand side, this is somebody's deal live. And we're like, no, we don't like this. Yes, we like this. And it's not just me doing this. We now have a bunch of other facilitators that do this deal with us. So there's, a call every single Monday. Then there's 2 deal sourcing calls a month. That's with Clint, who is a business broker. And also, like this week, he's going over asset heavy businesses. So how do you buy a business that has a bunch of tractors or trucks or something like that? Make sure you protect it. And then we have our owner's circle, which is as soon as you buy a business, how do we make sure you fucking crush it in that business? And in that's run by 2 other individuals who have bought and sold a bunch of businesses. So my goal is we try to create what I wish I had when I went to Georgetown, which was like, I want the like, I hate to use the term Harvard because I'm not even sure what they fucking teach you anymore, but let's say like the MIT, the Wharton, the really tactical mergers and acquisitions group is what I am hoping to create here. That is really important to me. And inside of that are a bunch of stuff you saw today: the deal valuation calculators, financial models, LOI templates. A couple things that are cool are like outreach scripts and email templates. How do you reach out to owners? They look like this in varying degrees, as well as a business broker's list, like, people that can sell you businesses. And then you get in this private Slack group, which I think is increasingly becoming really, really cool. And inside of there, you're reviewing deals, you're talking about wins and failures, you're figuring out, do I like, this structure? Do I not like that structure? And you're basically increasing the ability for you to succeed and decreasing your risk. That's the goal. These are some of the posts. We used to be in Facebook, so you can see some of the historical posts here of people talking about different deals, why we like them, why we don't. In here, you can kind of see we don't like a bunch of these deals. And so sometimes the most important deal you do is the one you don't do. And then, finally, we get to a place where a bunch of you guys are celebrating with each other the deals that you do. And we get together once a year, every year. This year, it'll be November in Austin, talking about business acquisition and doing cool stuff as a group. This is actually Robert, one of the coaches, who's a really incredible Scottish dude. And then you've already seen Renan. Okay. We've already talked about this. We do bi-weekly sourcing calls, which is really, really cool. That's where you can learn, actively workshop ways to find deals, which is really important. Now, the whole reason we do all this is because I have a goal: 1 million people I want to teach to become financially free. And I think right now, business buying is the best way to do it. Getting some skin in the game is the best way to do it. And so you guys are going to become one of them. You can't see this as an old example, but you can basically see, like at the bottom, see the 100 deals done, 75 million in revenue bought, total aggregate profit, 17 mil. We track this to try to see, are we actually delivering on what we say we're going to? Are we making a difference or not? Now, I want to be very honest. This is where people typically say, why can't you just do this for free? And it's because we limit the amount of people that come in every single month. Eventually, I hope to find a way to scale this infinitely, but we have it closed to new applicants, except we open it up for people that come on this call. We do one group of humans like you guys each month as a cohort that's allowed to come in, so we can sort of shepherd your experience as you come through it. But it is not free. It is not free monetarily, and it's not free time-wise. If you're not going to commit to the time, please don't join, because here's the truth. In order for this group to work, we have to have humans like you have skin in the game to pay for it. If you can't afford this, don't fucking worry about it. Go listen to all of our free stuff. It's not for you now. But if you are thinking about buying a business, I want you to have enough skin in the game so you will show up to every call or the recordings. I want you to have enough skin in the game where you're going to help other members of the group. And I want the group to be small enough where the people are actually going to help each other. And so we think the value of this is, I don't know how people determine the exact amount. I think the value of this is probably closer to 25 or 50K because of everything we have in the mastermind group. There'll probably be 10K in the next year just to keep the level going. And then we'll probably at some point, we have a ton of free courses and we have a ton of free resources for you guys too if this isn't for you. But for you being here today, we wanted to do something extra, which I thought was cool. This was Matilda's idea. So if you end up joining today, and I think there's 100 people that potentially can join today, Matilda can tell me if that's right or wrong, but you get the investor operating course with it, which is basically my foundation for buying boring businesses. You get the deal acceleration pack, which is a bunch of resources, a due diligence package, deal sourcing and finance, seller financing package. You can kind of see what these look like here. And then you get my tax guys. So Prime will do a free consult with you guys on how do you set up your business structuring, what entity is important, what, listing of tax deductions should you think about as you're buying this business. I don't own this company. It's just somebody that I use, and they give a discount to the members of our group. And then finally, you get a 10% discount to BizScout, which helps you source deals. The goal for this is eventually we're going to have everything. You're going to want to come in to buy a business. We're going to have the financing lenders there for you. We're going to have accountants. We're going to have the attorneys. We're going to have the tax structuring guys. And we are going to create what I think will be the most sophisticated group of buyers on the street. And then because this is cool, I think everybody should get some swag. So this is our Main Street over Wall Street gear. And if you're into it, then you get this sent to you too, which I think is awesome. Now, this application only thing lasts for, Matilda can tell me exactly what, you can drop the link to the mastermind. We can get to all of your questions right now. But because you spent 90 minutes with us, you get to pass the application process and you get to join if you want to today. And so it's always cool to see you guys starting to join the group. This is only for the people who are serious. Please do not join if you don't actually want to participate in buying a business. You have to do the work alongside us. But if you guys have already spent 60 to 90 minutes with us and you are ready to take the leap, I don't think there's a better place for you to do this. I think this is really, really important. Now, when this masterclass ends, so after the Q&A, those couple of things expire. And the reason why is just we can't keep them up on the site. It happens for this one period. We like to bring all the cohort in really, really tightly so that we can have you guys have one cohesive experience. Now, I'm going to answer a bunch of Q&A questions right now, but if you want to see, and Matilda and Arif, you can shuffle back and forth, basically everything that you get if you join today and if you decide to be an owner. If you don't, just go fucking be a good human, do good deals. I love that for you. But if you want to be an owner, I think this is the place for you to be. Now, who won the $1,000 seed money? Let's tell them right now, Arif, and can you guys tell them who won the $1,000? That'd be awesome. Okay, they're going to drop it in the comments and we're going to see. We have had, and then I see a bunch of questions. So let's go through a bunch of these. What's going on, Phil? How's it going? We haven't had 3,000 people go through the mastermind. We've had 700 people go through the mastermind. We've had 3,000 people go through the mastermind and our courses, which is really, really cool. We've also had, what's going on, Ethan? Oh, if you join, do me a favor. There's a channel in there called Introductions. Follow the instructions on how to do your introductions and what your goal is. I want to engage with each of you and see what you are trying to execute on. Now let's answer a bunch more questions. Okay. How do you handle Canadian business tax? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Sarah, but basically, if you come into the group, you would work with Prime and also any one of the accountants we work with, and they just differ by every single country. So, depending on the deal that you do and how you structure the deal, you're going to try to make sure you're the most tax advantaged you humanly can be. That's sort of consistently one of the most important things you can do in business acquisition. What's going on, Zach? Zach is actually, from someone that's done this firsthand, Zach closed on a gym business, actually. And then not only did he close on a gym business, he sold it. Well, I think I can say that, Zach, but he sold it for a pretty penny, which is really, really cool. Okay. I love these questions. Should we acquire our first business locally within 100 miles or less? Yes, there's one thing in the mastermind group that's you guys are going to hear about it before anybody else, because I actually haven't given it to them. I have sort of 20 things that will lead to a decreased likelihood for you guys to lose money on doing deals. And one of the most important ones, in my opinion, to start, when I looked at any deals that have gone wrong. So I've had 4 deals in my lifetime go sideways, where either I lost money or the business didn't turn out as profitable as I want. And 3 times out of 4 times, they weren't in my geographic radius. So that is one of the triggers that I like to say in the beginning. Please make sure your first deal is close to you. Then we can get more sophisticated for it. Okay, Cameron, how do you approach a business owner prior to doing due diligence? Do you present an LOI and TS? and term sheet, and then you receive the financials to perform due diligence. Actually, Cameron, no, I don't think that's how you do it. I think you approach these people like they're humans, and we have a couple cool back and forths in the course, basically, where we give you real engagement. So let's say, actually, Zach's a perfect example. So Zach was actually a member of one of the gyms that he bought, and he's just started having a conversation. How long have you been running this? This is really cool. I love the community. How much money do you guys make? This looks like it makes a ton of money. Oh, it makes about that. That's cool. So how long do you want to run this thing? Is anybody going to take over this business for you? Oh, no, you want to run this thing forever, no matter what? Oh, wait, you want to move back to North Carolina and you don't want to run this business anymore? Huh, what are you going to do? Oh, you might shut it down? What if I bought the business instead? That's how we teach people to have conversations with business owners. And we get really particular on the ways we do that again and again and again. Bill asks, what's the most common fail point of buying a business? This is why I have a community, because I could put everything for free on the internet. And what I'm going to tell you is we would never have 1 or 2 out of 6 people buy a business. And if we did have 1 or 2 people out of 6 people buy a business, there would be a high likelihood those business acquisitions would fail. You cannot just put $1 into, into Amazon and hope to make money in business buying. You actually have to learn. And there's lots of ways. If you don't want to learn here, you should go to a private equity MBA program. Those certainly exist. If you want to go to an MBA program, you're paying anywhere from $50 to $150K for a large one. If you want to go do a one-off small group, they're probably going to teach you large deals, not tiny ones. So whatever you do, you need to make sure you get it with another group of humans that are buying businesses. That is going to increase your likelihood for success 10x. Okay. Oh, John said that he already bought the business course and wants to include the mastermind. Yeah, John, reach out to Arif. He pinged this to me personally, but John, reach out to, or Arif, put your email or whatever support email you want them to reach out to. And they take the price, I think, of the course off the mastermind. So that's awesome. I actually like that even better. If people do the course, they really like it, then they want to go to the next level with it, because it already shows that you have skin in the game. You're going to be one of the few that actually, one of the 6 that do it. Let's see. How about, does this course apply to me? I'm from Ireland. The only thing that doesn't apply to people from other countries is going to be the SBA loans. So the particular loan structuring. Everything else is, seller financing is international. All businesses around the world, if they continue to exist, have profits. You can use those profits to buy them, just like my example in Biarritz, 2 weeks ago. And so all of it applies to anybody anywhere in the world. And in fact, if you're in Europe and you're in other countries, it's so much less common that you probably get much better multiples than we do here in the US. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, Barat says, I think the system design of online courses for most organizations suck. I think you're right. I mean, the likelihood that you guys just take a course and actually close on a deal is, we should sort of categorize that. But I would imagine it's incredibly less likely than if you were actually in a group where everybody else is doing it. Okay, Ven asks, I've been in tech for over a decade and a half. What kind of tech businesses do you recommend, e.g. consulting or product? So there's something about, we call this your unfair advantage, which I've talked to you guys about before. So when you come into our group, there's something called a deal box, or other people call it your investment thesis if you're in private equity, or they call it your deal parameters. Lots of different terms, but what essentially means is if you say, I want to buy a business, any business, well, it's really hard for you to narrow down what kind of business you want to buy, but also people to source businesses to you, because any business means every business, which means no businesses. And so it's less than the type of business that you should buy than the type of business for you. We have everybody ask themselves 15 questions that they need to know before they buy a business. Things like, where do you want it located? How much money do you want the deal to make? How much money can you afford to put into the deal? How much money in cash can you have to make sure that the deal doesn't go sideways? How much do you want to work in the business? Do you want to have an operator or not? What kind of businesses are interesting to you? So we have you run through these questions, because at the end, you need to find Ven's perfect business, not necessarily the type of business. I mean, I have a chat automation business that I love. I have a property management business. I have car washes. I have laundromats. I have mobile home parks. a deal is a deal at some degree, as long as you do the right structuring and you have the right team and operations in place. Let's see what else we got. If it is not an asset buy, how do you define what amount of cash money from the balance sheet the seller keeps and which liabilities? Actually, Armando, that's a cool question. Lots of different characteristics to it. But one of the reasons I like you guys talking to Prime, my tax guys, is when you do a deal, it's really important. There are different ways to categorize the assets of a business. And so to overly simplify, if say I'm trying to buy a laundromat from somebody, they're going to try to categorize a bunch of the business as goodwill. And the reason they're going to want to do that is because goodwill has a better tax advantage for them than it does for me, the seller. I'm going to want to categorize a bunch of stuff as equipment or assets because that has a better tax advantage for me. And so the real question is just, do you have the right people on your teams? That is what you need to know. And if you have that, then the business that you buy, you can be really intelligent with the way that you structure your transactions. That's really, really cool. Okay, Matt, welcome to the group. Nice to meet you. Make sure you drop in there for me. Oh, and John, how's it going too? Make sure you drop in there for me more about you so we can figure out what business you need to buy. Okay, Mayawa, how much of the profit do you reinvest in the business? Well, it depends really what kind of deal you're doing. So in every single one of my businesses, I require, what's going on, Ryan? Stoked to have you. If I am doing a deal, I want the deal to be profitable day one to me. I don't buy businesses that I have to fund. I buy businesses that are profitable with an intelligent investment schema or financial oversight on them, and I run them forever. I have done a bunch back in the day of venture and angel investing deals, and I have a lot of my assets tied up in that still, like 3 to 5 to 10 years later, and hopefully those pay off. But the problem is, while you're waiting for those things, you need your company to profit for you today. And so it's really important for me that when you guys do these deals, you take money off the table continuously. These are not venture style deals that we're doing or we're teaching you how to do. You are going to try to profit day one on them. So if you want to reinvest to grow the business, that's fine. But as we help you do your modeling on this, we're gonna have some feedback for you on making sure that's not too much. Let's see, Ryan, I'm ready to start and own a business, but I don't have much cash. Do you say to invest in the class or self-learn? It really depends. I mean, if you don't have much cash and the mastermind is going to take up all your cash, then yeah, just self-learn, like 100%, until you can afford to actually put some money on the line. Unless you want to invest in learning first and then get assets from other people in order to do deals. The point of making this pay is, sure, I don't do things for free. I don't believe in it. I think we should all have profitable enterprises, and we should have an information exchange that shows value. And I think that is the way that you show respect. I would never ask my friends for a discount on any of their businesses. In fact, I often want to be the first dollar in and pay at a premium for them. I just think that's the right thing to do when somebody puts their time and effort towards something. But I think for you in particular, you have to decide if you can be intelligent enough to do a deal and diligent enough to invest in yourself up front and then get assets to execute on the deal, then join the mastermind. What I don't want you to do though, Ryan, is join the mastermind and then try to do too big of a stretch deal and then use up all of your capital so that stretch deal has any risk to you. So if you do join the mastermind, we're going to have a chat about that as a group, and we're going to make sure that the deal you do is appropriate for the cash you have on hand. Or we have investors and we help you figure out investors so that you can make sure that we always protect the house. We make sure that first deal is the best deal. Let's see. That's what I would say. It's really up to you. I mean, I'm biased. Obviously I run this company, but let's say it wasn't this. So like the other day, I wanted to learn more about subject to real estate transactions. So I do seller financing here. I have a friend named Pace. He does real estate transactions without cash. And so I paid for his course because I wanted to learn how to do that quickly. Even though he's a friend of mine, I'm sure he would have taught me. And I think, back in the day when I didn't have a lot of cash, I spent a shit ton of money on Georgetown. And I thought the ROI would be high and I'd have this incredible network. didn't really work out like that. It's good to have on my resume, but I sort of believe that my friend Alex Hormozy says, what does he say? The S&P of me. And that is the best investment that you can make. I tend to believe that, but I'm hugely biased because we run a media and education business. So that would be the most fair answer that I could give you is I'm biased. I always invest in learning. And I think you're going to make the most money off of that. And then the deals you do will be a byproduct of how smart and knowledgeable you are. Let's see, Rebecca, would you be willing to do 100% seller financing for your mastermind course? Absolutely not. Let me tell you why. And it's not, I know it's like kind of a joke, and I think it's great that you get used to asking that question. You can go and look up research study after research study. We do not value the things that we do not pay for. And in fact, what's wild to me is the more people pay for something, the higher their likelihood is that they're going to execute on it. You see it again and again and again. And so what I don't want to have is a bunch of people in the course and the mastermind that aren't fucking committed. If you're committed, you're going to figure out a way. And if you're not committed, you're going to figure out an excuse. And that's just the way that life goes. And so, if you figure out a way, it's earning more now. It's learning from all the free stuff. It's getting to the next level. It's maybe going to school for it, whatever the case may be. But I want to make sure humans have skin in the game. It's our entire belief system is incentive alignment. This is a really good question. How do you know that the laundromats aren't lying about the profit? I think you could replace laundromat with businesses. So this goes back to, remember that slide on due diligence. This is really important. So we have something called a due diligence checklist, a bunch of different variations on it. But there's a lot of little tricks on this. One, you want to match up tax returns to people's P&Ls or their profit and loss statement. And so if there's a big discrepancy between the two, we're going to need to de-risk that in the way that we structure the deal. You can also do, specifically for laundromat, something called a coin count, which is you actually count sort of the number of customers go in and the quarters at the end of the day. You can also do a lot of things to do sort of a law of averages. So this is why I like people to have sector industry specific experts. So if I've done so many laundromat deals now, if you came to me and said, I have a laundromat making $3 million a year in profit, I'd be like, I doubt it, because they just don't make that much. Or if you told me your location, how much it costs you and what the revenue is and what the profit is, I can probably tell you how much they actually make, because the margins are about 15 to 30%. And so you can triangulate, as you've done more of these deals, what the real revenue and profit should be. Let's see. What are good low-cost entities to help build up to a larger acquisition? It's a good question, Aaron. Well, it really depends on how you think about it. So yes, you could go buy a vending machine, let's say, or you could buy a vending machine business for a smaller amount. You could also partner with somebody and be the sweat equity or be the deal finder to somebody who's doing a bigger deal. You could also just partner up with somebody else and both put cash into a deal. So it's not just the type of business. And also I hate ATMs. So that's not my favorite type of business for people to do. Just really, really low margins, super high volume, expensive machines up front, long return period for investment. So that one I don't love. Vending machines are okay, but you have to have a lot of them to really scale for you to get a significant income. Let's see here. What do you think about for where to start regarding what types of businesses? I own a psychotherapy office because I'm a therapist, but wanted to maybe go digital marketing or something unrelated like HVAC. Cool idea. So we were actually talking in our owners group today about what I would honestly do, Natasha. You say I own a psychotherapy office, your best bet for your least de-risk or your most de-risked deal that you can have the highest likelihood to succeed, plus buy it for the least amount of money and have the highest ROI per individual client or customer or LTV, lifetime value, is if you do the thing that you're already doing and you just buy more of them. So like I would push you, if I was you, Natasha, and maybe we'd understand more about your business, I'd be like, you already own a psychotherapy office. Let's buy 5 more. Let's start with 1. Can you buy a competitor? Can you buy your exact same business? And we go through the varying types of acquisitions in the course, but you have vertical acquisition, you have horizontal acquisition. And so basically what I would do is I would try to get you to buy more of the same type of business, or I might get you to analyze where you spend money right now, Tasha. So maybe you spend a lot of money in your psychotherapy office on I don't know. Maybe you refer a bunch of people to physical therapy too, because you think that's really important. So maybe you buy a physical therapy company to go alongside it. So I wouldn't actually tell you to go buy an HVAC from psychotherapy. I'd say use your unfair advantage. I love buying medical practices. I think that's a really cool business. Let's see. So somebody asked a question on the course versus the mastermind. The course is $2,000. The mastermind is $8,800 is the difference between the two. And I think Arif dropped both of those in the chat and offer. The mastermind is for a year. Every single Monday are the calls, and then the 2 weekly deal sourcing calls, and then a call a month once you join the owners club, and then a discounted amount on an annual basis for people that stay in. Of the businesses that you own, Ellie asks, which industry sector is your favorite and why? Also, hi, Paul. Glad you joined. And what's up, Carlos? What is my favorite that I own? I don't, I kind of, one of my mentors said a line to me that I loved, which is, you never fall in love with something that can't love you back. And so I really don't think about the businesses that way. The businesses that I like the most are the ones that are run by the operators I like the most, that make the most money, and by and large where I can add the most value. So I do not think industry, this is one of the biggest reframes that you guys are going to have as you go through the course or the mastermind, is realizing like everybody goes, right now, we have been trained by the stock market to say, you should buy bonds right now. Oh, the real estate market is going to crash. You should buy real estate. Oh, this market, Detroit, is going down. We should buy them. Oh, we should sell in Miami because it's going up. This is how we've been taught. We haven't been taught to do second and third order thinking, which is like what Natasha was talking about. I own a psychotherapy practice that already does this. The whole world has all of these thoughts on what's going to happen from a macro perspective. But what can I control and have the most unfair outcome on? And it is that I buy another psychotherapy office and another psychotherapy office and another psychotherapy office. In fact, one of my good friends in Austin did exactly that. She had, I don't know if it's still, the largest practice in Austin, 5 or 7 offices, and rolled them up and sold them to private equity. And the nicest woman in the world, who you would never think of it, made tens of millions of dollars from selling those practices. Roshni asked, what is your next step when the operator quits without notice? Well, a lot of the downsides in buying businesses you handle in the beginning. So if you structure the deal right, and if you structure the deal with your operator right, and if you structure the management where you have some fat in the deal, or what's called redundancy, aka manager 1, and if something happens to him, manager 2, if you do the right kind of deal, then it doesn't have to be a fire drill when somebody leaves the company. Now, don't get me wrong. No matter what, if you're running a business or doing a business, there's always something going wrong. There's always, oh man, we should have done that sale instead. This person quit. I really actually don't like that person. There's always that. But guess what? There is that in being an employee too, except they can fire you at any point, except you don't have control over your outcome and you're not leaving a legacy behind you. And so what I would say, Roshni, is that you handle that on the front end. We make sure that you do a smart deal and structure a smart deal so that if your operator leaves or when your operator leaves, you 1, have hired correctly, 2, have incentivized them so they're not just going to leave without a moment's notice because there'd be repercussions for that. And 3, you have some meat on the bone so that that doesn't ruin things for you. Ben. The process look like for going from 1 business to 2 businesses? Is it like going from 1 child to 2 children? It seems impossible, but it's actually great once you've done it. Actually, no. I think your first business is the scariest and hardest by far. Your first business is like, what are you talking about? This crazy woman says that I could buy a business and I don't have to have a ton of money to do it. And there's no chance. And she has to be lying and no way. And it feels impossible. And then you do your first deal. And your first 90 days, you're still kind of figuring out, you're not exactly sure. And then your first 6 months, you're like, fuck, a couple things went wrong here. Oh my gosh, am I doing okay? And then after about a year of you doing a good deal the right way, you're like, I'm never going to just grow organically again because I'm kind of a lazy operator. And I realize that this is a skill set that so few people have, that everybody can go out and buy Facebook ads. Everybody can go out and do social media. Everybody can go out and do door-to-door sales, but not everybody knows how to do deals. and how to do M&A well. And so I think, Ben, what you're going to find is that you're going to use it a lot, again and again and again. Okay, I am going to answer like 2 more questions. It's a cool question from Bill. Cody, does your course train you to sell your businesses also, or just acquire? So cool. So the Owner's Circle is focusing all on scaling the business and then processizing it, which are the 2 keys to selling your business. And we're going to actually work on a whole section that will be preparing for the sale. And increasingly, stay tuned. You're going to see some things from us on, we have 2 business brokers in the group. So say you bought a business and you're like, I want to sell it now. There's 2 guys in there that you just go, hey, Lloyd, hey, Clint, I want to sell this business. Can you guys help me? And then I think we've had 5 different individuals that all have their contact information in there that you can reach out to that are also business brokers. But it's certainly going to move forward a bit more. Okay. What else? Do you use numerology in your business? No, but I do use in all of my businesses, and we talk about this in there as well, personality screenings. So that personality screening is really important for buying a business and making sure that you have the right operators in place. Really, really important, and something that I would push you guys to do again and again. Now, I'm going to answer one more question. Oh, good. Danny asked the same thing. How do you prepare for the exit? Selling to private equity isn't that easy. No, it's not that easy, but I think what you find when you're in a group like this, there's 700 members in here. So Danny, let's say you buy a business, and then like Kelly, who I saw just joined. So let's say you buy a business, that business does $100,000 a year and you want to sell it for $200,000 to $400,000. You already understand how seller financing works. You already know a bunch of other members in the team. You turn around and you post it in our deal sourcing channel and you say, I'm ready to sell this business. And then Kelly goes, I really like Danny. I like this business. It fits my deal box. Danny, would you be willing to structure something interesting for me here? Oh yeah, you would? Okay, let's sell it intra-group. That's the future that I see. And then you keep like kind of leveling up like this. And then maybe you go, okay, cool. I'm going to sell to you, Kelly. And I might actually buy another couple, 1 or 2 of these businesses. If I do that and merge these 2 together, I'm going to have a business that now does $1 million a year. I might come back. And as you grow this one, maybe we do a bolt-on acquisition. Now we're at $5 million a year between the 2 of our companies, because you've grown yours, I've grown mine. Let's combine the 2 of them and let's go sell to private equity. And this just doesn't exist in the world right now. Except I think here what we're doing, and that's the future that I see. Let's see. Okay. Last couple of questions really quick. How do you get access to the mastermind and course? Arif will drop both for those there. One last thing before you guys go to the after party. Why don't you guys drop the link for the after party? Basically, this is if you guys have more questions regarding the course or the mastermind. How do we do it? Should we really do it? Are we a right fit? This is not a chance for you to get sold on it. This is a chance for you to make sure you're a right fit. We don't want people in here that are not ready for it. We just want you to go be a better person in the world, go do more deals, go learn more about this, not necessarily join us unless you are ready. One thing I do see is for people on here that are 50, 60 in your, let's call it second or third iteration. It was really cool. I worked with an editor on a book that I have coming out, and he basically, we were talking about this so much that he ended up with his kids buying a in-school vending machine business for his kids, and built up that business through acquisition from a bunch of stuff that I talked about, and then sold it. And he took the proceeds from that sale and he used it to fund different things from his kids. Like I think he funded their college and house, which was really, really cool. And then actually my book agent from Portfolio, a Penguin Random House company, she reached out to me because she followed this. She's a little bit older, and she used this to buy a property management company. And this was going to be like, she didn't want to do publishing forever. She was kind of looking for her soft landing into her next thing that maybe wasn't so crazy in New York and all the hours and whatever. And so she used it to buy a property management company. So I don't want you to think that this is just for the young whippersnappers. It's absolutely not. And in fact, sometimes I think it's really cool too when you're a bit older, like my dad, who's done 7 or 8 deals. Well, that's not true. He sold 6 businesses, and he's might have started and been a part of 10 or 11 of them over the years. He's the target market for a seller too. So if you're a little bit older than like, some of the 20 years on here is me, I'm 36. You're just going to relate to those sellers more. And I think you could actually have a lot more success with buying those businesses. And then see where it takes you from there. Okay. What's going on? Okay. I think they dropped the after party. Feel free to go to it. All I'll say to you guys is no matter what you do, this is one of those generational wealth creation opportunities. So whether you learn it here, whether you learn it somewhere else, I'd like you to get some skin in the game. You don't even have to own the whole business. Do what Mark does. Get a small potential of it. Do what my publisher does, which day job, helping me get to a bestseller. But on the side, she owns this property management company. It's not her passion. She wants to help me get to a bestseller. But it is there in case the publishing industry goes sideways again. Keep your 9 to 5. Keep earning, but have something on the side that's a small real estate brokerage that you own part of, but your husband runs. Do something where you have skin in the game so that we own our communities again and so that you own your revenue streams. Thank you so much for being on here. The link for the after party is in yellow. You guys should be able to see it in the chat. And I think I just dropped it too, if I know what I'm doing on here, which I don't. And I really appreciate you spending your time with us. I do not take it lightly. We only have so much time in the day. And I hope if you guys buy a business, you come and you tell us, and you tell us the goods and you tell us the bads, and you become one of the few who own in a world who squats. And so thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate all of it. Bye, everybody. I'm going to leave this up here for a second so that all of you guys can join this after party if you want to. Bye now.